Welcome to the Alpha Pickleball Podcast, where we slice through the noise to bring you the juiciest insights, strategies, and stories from the dynamic world of pickleball. Join us as we serve up engaging conversations with top players, coaches, and enthusiasts, giving you an ace perspective on all things pickleball. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just stepping onto the court, get ready for a volley of knowledge that'll elevate your game to alpha levels. Let the rallies begin.
All right, welcome again to this show. I'm your host, Tats. We have Travis Rettenmaier here, pro pickleball player, MLP owner, got a bunch of other things going. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate the invite.
Awesome. We don't want to go into too much detail, but how'd you start into pickleball?
Kind of a blow up story. I was in a previous job I didn't really like. I was in a marriage that wasn't going well, and I was living in Bradenton, Florida. And my divorce basically started on August 29th of 2021. I moved to stay with a buddy in St. Petersburg, which is about 30 miles away. And he took me to a park called Crescent Lake. I don't know why, but as soon as I went there, I kind of felt comfortable. The hooks got in me, like happens to a lot of people. I like the community, I like the people. And I just started going there night after night after night after night after night. And, playing with the OGs of Crescent Lake. And slowly but surely, it kind of became a reality that this might be something that is more than just a hobby where we have a few beers and talk trash, that we could actually make something of this.
Yeah, it sounds like this was life-changing for you.
Oh, for sure. It's another bite at the apple, but more so it was to not essentially have any community where I was prior. And growing up as a tennis player where it's very individual, you're focused on me all the time. And then obviously to be, a somewhat mature adult at 38 and kind of find this alternative path and then be immersed by people that are, of all races, political backgrounds, demographic, wealth, whatever it may be, the variation was substantial. And that was kind of cool. It was like, all right, I'm on the same playing field as all of these people, regardless of their educational background, fat, tall, skinny, whatever. And so it was, it's been something that's been sustainable, and I think it will be for the duration. It's just a place that I really felt comfortable, welcome, and pickleball is certainly the avenue or the vehicle that led me there.
Yeah. And, obviously you have a high level tennis background, but, you're not necessarily in the, a hub of pickleball. How did you approach taking it more seriously?
That was not by like design. It was more just enjoying playing with my friends, which I still do. I still go to Crescent Lake. I was kind of referenced that. I think I'm the only pro that probably plays with his buddies at a local park 3 or 4 nights a week. I just like it. It's fun. And there was one particular guy, Graham D'Amico, who's my partner in a lot of ventures, that being Florida Smash, our indoor facility going up, St. Pete Athletic. And he and I became pretty fast friends. He was obsessed with pickleball. He was the one who wanted to buy a team first. We had basically a few things in common, and we enjoyed talking to each other. And he kind of pushed me, he's just like, you're good at this. You could probably make this a career. And it was like, man, like I'm making good money. It's fun. And anyway, slowly but surely, I just realized that I didn't really want to do anything else other than wake up and play pickleball. And so he helped me find some people that were supportive of me monetarily and, kind of made my life a little easier, I would say. And then it became clear that I was willing to take the risk that if it didn't work out and I went broke, I was okay with that. I just didn't want to stay on this pathway of like pursuing monetary gain with no real enjoyment. And that's kind of what my life had been for the previous, 5 or 6 years. So when I decided that, for myself and then primarily for my daughter, that if we ended up in a one-room shack, but she saw me wake up and smiling and going to the courts and having fun, like I'm cool with that. That's fine. I'll live with that. But I didn't want to see us in a large house with a tennis court or a pool and I'm a miserable old man.
Yeah. So, it wasn't necessarily like, like some people grow up with people that into pickleball and they get good together. You just had someone that just loved it and supported you, not necessarily the drilling partner or whatever that you came up with.
No, Graham and I drilled a lot, but Graham's probably like a 5'2" duper, I would say, right in that around that. But but he would do anything that I asked, if we were drilling, and I think he was getting as much out of it as I was. And early on, like, he was the only guy I played with. So there's like videos of us, Christmas Eve, because I didn't have my kid and he's a very odd guy. And so we were just like, drilling on Christmas Eve, there's nobody else there. And then on Thanksgiving, same kind of thing. And we're just playing and playing and playing and playing, regardless of the day or the circumstance or whatever it may be. And then we started to find some other players within like a 20 to 30 mile radius. We would drive to play with them. And yeah, it just became something we enjoyed, me in particular. And it was like, all right, I think most of these guys are like D2, D3 tennis players that are, making their way. Like I'm probably capable of playing with them. So that was the thought process.
Awesome. What came easy? What came hard for you in terms of the pickleball game?
I mean, definitely a third shot drive is pretty easy. That's something that is obtainable right away. I would say there's a lot of nuance, certain things about playing defense that are difficult, dropping the third and in some ways relinquishing control of the point by hitting something slow. In tennis, that doesn't happen often. If a guy hits the ball firm, you generally, hit it back firm. So like a reset, for instance, or, acknowledging that you're in a defensive position, and just because you're maybe a bit more athletic or your hands are a bit faster, you probably can't overcome that position that you're in. So I think it was just like the subtleties, these little small things. One is, in tennis, you always react to the ball off of the person's racket. So letting balls go, letting balls be out, kind of judging where players are attacking from and deciding pre-contact that I'm going to leave it, or their swing is really large, I'm going to leave it. Those are like small things that just took time, and they were really more subconscious than anything. It was just reps, and then trying to get as many quality reps as I can when I'm at tournaments to play with people, and then kind of add things to my game that they had that I didn't.
Yeah, you mentioned about out balls for sure. I like to hit things that are going out. Lately, I'm trying to focus on looking for the out ball first as like the absolute first thing. Then okay, I hit it. And I think it's working a little bit better, but love to.
It's one that it was actually a Jessie Irvin thing. She was the one who told me, she was like, sometimes you're going to look stupid, but if you see someone, say, you lining up for an attack from a foot and a half below the net, there's probably like 3 people in the world that make that consistently. So let them miss. Like the odds are high that they're not going to, they're going to make it sometimes, but the odds are high that the probability says they're not going to make it. So don't stand in the middle of it, even if your hands are fast. Like, let them miss, and maybe that one lands 3 foot in, you look like an idiot, but the other 7, 8, 9, you're going to look sharp.
Yeah, for sure. So for you, you've been at it for a little bit. How's the game evolved for you? Just looking at the balls coming at you and paddles and all.
God. I mean, I don't think the game has really evolved that much. Like, I think the technology is what's evolved. Yeah, there's certain shots, like for instance, the 2-handed backhand roll at the dink line. That's certainly a new asset that maybe James Ignatovich has the best one. He actually creates quite a bit of rotation on it. It's a bit high risk at times, but if he can hit it, and I'm hitting a slice backhand, just based on the spin that I'm putting, I'm probably going to float a few more balls than him. But what's really changed it from a negative perspective is obviously the Gen 3s and paddles of that nature that have a 50% higher exit velocity than the paddles we're accustomed to, and the points start to lose that fun is the only way I can describe it. Like, if I see a guy who had a shoulder height forehand at the kitchen line, it wasn't like, oh, this is over. And now there's certain guys with those particular paddles, it's like it's almost impossible to get this back. And that sucks, because you want to see the defense, you want to see the elongated firefights, you want to see these crafty points. And so that evolution is challenging, because before it was more craft, more subtlety, more nuance, and now it's definitely becoming more power driven.
Yeah. And what's the solution for you? Like
there's a
just
couple.
Just based on the realities of where we are today, what can we do to sort of bring it back?
Well, I mean, I think that pro pickleball in general, and I'll say PPA, MLP, they have to be really, really careful, because we want fans. That's the one thing we're lacking is enough eyeballs to make it viable for a long, sustainable period. And if you have, let's say a future fan that's Barbara, who goes to her local courts and plays, and Barbara gets hit in the face by a ball going 105, Barbara's never coming back. She's done. So you just lost one person. And how many times does that happen? How many people does Barbara tell who might have played And then you have this kind of spiraling effect of now pickleball is a dangerous game, where before it was this all-inclusive, everybody can play with everybody. So I think, just a conscious decision that there has to be a cap on the exit velocity. I'm all in favor of as much spin as possible. I think that that's more of a technical thing where you can create spin and it shows skill, as opposed to, the real power paddles that any Joe Schmo can kind of come in and smoke the ball. So I would like to see the power cap dropped a fair bit, and then maybe increase the amount of spin that's allowed, and see if we can create more dynamic, more athletic points that look crafty, where guys are speeding up more because they're not concerned that the counter is going to come back at 95 miles an hour and the point ends.
Yeah. Yeah. What does training and practice look like for you?
I mean, I'm sure I'm unique in that regard. When I'm gone, I don't know, 25 weeks a year at this point, playing, which is probably a bit too much. I wish it wasn't that much. Sometimes it can get a little stale. But when I'm home, I'm dad, so I do a ton of yoga. Last year, I was working more with my trainer, which I still work with a fair bit, Connor Derrickson. And we were doing a lot more like kind of CrossFit oriented stuff, muscle mass, trying to prevent injury. And I just got slow. I got too big. I was like 205 at my peak. And for me, that's huge. So I was like, all right, I don't feel good. I feel slow. I feel sluggish. So I definitely transferred my training more towards pliability, flexibility, a lot of hot yoga, probably, 3-4 days a week when I'm home. And then, the training is difficult because there's a few guys in my area that are probably like right around that 6'0" range, and they're good. And we can do like skinny singles and stuff, but it still is a very different game than when, you go up and play against J-Dub or Ben. There's just different subtlety, there's different nuance, and they penalize you more for mistakes than maybe these guys do. So we try to get the best games we can together. And I would say I probably play when I'm home 2 hours a day, and a lot of that is just going to Crescent and playing with the buddies and making sure in my mind I have some kind of objective that I'm working on, some shot I'm trying to add, but primarily it's just having fun,
Yeah. I mean, do you think at any point, if there was more money in it, would it ever turn into tennis? Like, tennis players are training 6 to 8 hours a day or more, right?
Yeah.
Like, would pickleball become that? Or is it just, because when I talk to a lot of the pros, a lot of them do a lot more off court than on court. I mean, is that just going to scale, or is this just a matter of time until you just have to be so precise that you got to spend just as much time on the court as a tennis player?
Yeah, I think it will. I think in time that'll just showcase. I think it's going to be more from, the kids that are 9 and 10, because the beauty about pickleball to some extent is you can actually legitimately stay on the court for 7-8 hours and probably play the next day. If you have like a 7-8 hour very intense tennis practice, you're probably not playing the next day. You're probably super sore, struggling, body struggling. And not to say you don't get sore in pickleball, you do, but it's just different. It's less arduous. It's still taxing, but it's just not as taxing. And I think those kids that are, 8 and 9 years old that are finishing school and are obsessed with pickle, and they go play with their friends from 2 to 8, and then, run inside and have dinner. They're going to be accustomed to playing that much. They're going to have really finite skills that they have honed over the duration of time. And I think there's certainly guys, there's very, very hard workers in pickleball now that spend an abundance of time on their craft. But yeah, I just think that the majority of the players that are in this are not maybe accustomed to being high-end athletes and really understand what that entails. So I actually think it's going to be like kind of the next generation that takes it to that next step, where you might see a team of players, like kind of like Ben has now, a team of like physios and coaches and so forth that are around you.
Yeah. And I guess when you're young, your recovery is just amazing. So you
just play and play. It's relevant. Yeah. And that's the nice thing. It's like tennis, you can really have a lot of shoulder, elbow problems. I had two elbow surgeries. Pickleball, I don't really think that's a issue, certainly not to the same extent. It's like you're wielding a 27-inch mallet around and, hitting a ball that's made of rubber, and there's so much force behind it. We're hitting a wiffle ball. It's not gonna hurt the arm the same way.
Yeah. Talk to me about MLP side, being an owner, the format. What goes into being an owner? Like what's your day look like in terms of?
I mean, for me, it's not too expensive. Like Graham handles the majority of it. There's been a lot of ups and downs as an owner. Early on, I think there was this overwhelming excitement as the events kind of really had momentum and excitement behind them. And then I think we were all trying to give our input on where this goes long term. How is this, again, a good product in 5 years and 10 years? There's some differing opinions on that, and a lot of it is economics, because in my opinion, we need home and away matches. Like, you have to have that if this is going to be an actual league at some point. And so, I try to advocate for that. I was really adamant when we got the team that we have a geographic location. I wanted it to be St. Pete, but we settled on Florida because I just think you need a fan base in whatever city you're at. And I think that's really important. So I'm lucky in the sense that where I am supports me. And I believe that when we put up our facility, if we're able to host events and so forth here, then we'll just build that fan base more and more. So for us right now, it's more just kind of looking out kind of on the horizon and seeing what we can do to build our brand, build our team, and make sure that we're doing what we can to build up MLP.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what in your mind, what goes into team selection? Because I know that these regional groups are starting to do little team events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe not as everything will be relevant, but in your mind, like what's the thought around putting together a team to be competitive in a team environment?
It's a lottery, man. Like, it's really difficult. You never know what personalities are going to mesh and what aren't. I think the most important aspect is that everyone supports each other and that you have a very good team dynamic, that you don't have, a lot of ego or a lot of blame or a lot of resentment. And those things aren't always easy because, I always say this: pickleball, far more than tennis. Like, in tennis, a guy hits a serve $130, you miss the return, I miss the return. Hard shot, really tough. There's not a lot of hard shots in pickleball. Like, they're really not that hard. So the errors are magnified. So, like, let's say I'm playing alongside somebody and I made 8 very clear errors. They know that it's on me at the moment. So it's very hard to like maintain that encouragement at times. So I think that if you have people who are not egomaniacs and genuine team players, you probably have a much better shot. And I think the Orlando Squeeze were probably the best example of that last year. They had 4 very professional, very quality people that all were pushing each other along. And playing with Zane recently, I've kind of referenced this, like, that's his superpower. He has an ability to make you feel better about yourself and play better. So I think that's really important, is you need that dynamic where you're drawing the best from your partners.
Wow. What are some, like, obviously some people are a little bit more gifted there, but let's say what could an individual do to be that better teammate or make the other person good? What are the subtleties that you notice that you like?
Oh, it's something that I'm really bad at, to be honest. It's like, and I don't do it because of them. I do it even when I miss, but it's like a body language thing. Like, they might go for the exact right shot at 17-17 and they miss it by 2 inches, and I might go like that, just something small, but they feel it. So I have to be really conscious of my actions and ensure that they're not feeling like I'm making them feel poorly, because they're doing the best they can, obviously. So it's just subtleties like that, being aware of maybe your mannerisms and your actions and how they affect the people around you, and then trying to work on it.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about sort of, I guess, talking, or call it trash talking in the game.
Yeah.
What's effective, what's not, what's good, what's bad. Walk me through that.
It's a good topic, because there's a lot of opinions on it. Some people just think it's like, bush league and you shouldn't do it at all. I think it's a great thing, as long as you kind of keep it to a certain extent. Like, I don't think you should ever get personal. You certainly don't mention anyone's family. But like Hayden and I, for example, have a good relationship. He calls me old, I call him small, and it goes back and forth. Those are fine. You're slow. I think Matt Wright's really good at it. He always says something like, this guy's dink is broken, we're gonna get a lot of good looks, or he's gonna float a lot, just keep playing the backhand dink. And that, it can wear on you, because you're like, does my backhand dink suck? Maybe it does. And then there's guys who are, a little more creative, that are witty. And those are probably my favorite to watch, because they're funny, and then there's those that are just outright obnoxious and annoying, and that I don't enjoy. It's just like, just being loud is not skillful or crafty. And I really do think there's a skill to it. I do think you can get in people's head. I do think it should be allowed, but again, within reason. Don't talk about my race or my mother or my, nothing of that nature. Let's keep it pickleball related, and maybe some like subtle jokes that we are, both okay with.
Got it. Got it. There's some line, but there's a place for it.
Yeah, there's just some guys who aren't good at it. Like they get rattled, so they're, like their first thing is like, God, you're so ugly. All right, shit. And then like I use Graham as an example. Graham's terrible. Like he'll be like, you're fat. To Graham, it's not trash talk. It's not. No, it's just mean. And so some people I think are like witty, crafty, have good jokes that maybe take a second to think about, and then others are just not so good at it.
I just visualize Travis's like online trash talking course, product.
Yeah. I don't know how good that would be, to be honest. I do get a little too heated at times. Like there's certain guys, like I use Brandon French a lot. I feel like he's like the conductor, everybody's getting really upset and really chippy, and he's just at the same level the whole time, regardless of what's said. Doesn't take anything personal and seems to really have a knack for pissing people off.
Got it. I mean, and I think I heard this before, but I guess some people like it, right? Because obviously, if they like it, you don't want to say it. Who are the people on the tour that like being talked to and who you shouldn't because they start playing better?
I probably Riley is the first one that I think of. In fact, like one of the first matches that I ever watched was in Dallas. I want to say like November 2022, and someone was, I think it was Jay DeVilly maybe, was chirping at Riley. And he said something like, the more you chirp, the better I play. The more you chirp, the better I play. And sure enough, like he played sick, he shut him down. And I think he's kind of one of those guys who thrives on it. And so you have to watch out for that. Like you don't want to poke the bear.
Yeah, for sure. In pickleball, there's a lot of stop and go, warm up, no warm up, short warm up, whatever.
Yeah.
How do you manage that process? Do you do anything particular?
No, I'm pretty in tune with where my body's at. So definitely carry a massage gun with me at all times. Like that thing's on numerous batteries in my bag, and I'm just running it. And then I've got these like little digital suction cups that I like. Like if I feel like I twinge something a little bit, I'll throw those on. Usually I'll run through maybe like a 2 to 3 minute yoga routine, little jog before each match, just to get the blood flowing, make sure I'm feeling good. And if I need a little more, I'll do a little more. If I feel like I need nothing, I'll do nothing. But certainly always just trying to be aware of like where my energy levels are at, where my body's at, and how I feel.
Got it. After a event where your body is just trash, you had a deep run. What do you do to recover?
Just kick it. I mean, nothing really. Usually, honestly, I don't recover. I could probably go to Crescent the next day. Like I can't. I always joke with my girlfriend. She'll be like, I'm not gonna play for like 2 or 3 days. She's like, shut up. You'll be there tonight. And that's just the way it is. Like I can't stay away. So the recovery is more just like enjoying myself, having fun. I think it's more about pumping the endorphins. I never feel like wrecked after a pickleball tournament. I don't play singles certainly well enough at this point to play 4 or 5 singles matches. So I might be a little fatigued, but the most important thing for me is like getting back to making it enjoyable right away. If I don't feel like I'm playing, I won't play. But usually, like tonight, I'll be at Crescent. I want to play.
Nice. Between like the 4-5 to 5-5 range and level, what are the things you see most people have to work on?
First one's probably shot selection. Just dumb. They're just playing dumb. And that goes all the way up to the highest levels. There's some pretty dumb fellows out there who play with no sense of routine or aren't very methodical. But then it's just small things like feeling comfortable staying in a dink rally, not feeling like you have to rush. But again, those are difficult things because they are rep based, and it's different for everyone you play, right? Like he might be able to stay in a cross-court dink rally with Graham, but then he plays against me and that margin gets a lot smaller. So he felt like he was doing well and now it's not so good. And so that's difficult. But I think it's just mostly getting reps. I hear a lot like drill for players. And I think that's true to a point. But I think there's so much you can learn from just playing games and enjoying it. And like if there was advice that I was giving anyone, it'd be like, don't learn the game, play the game. Just play it. Like figure it out. Try not to be like too hard on yourself. Try not to structure this so intensely. Like I'm going to get better at this. I get that. That's important at times, but majority of it, like this is supposed to be fun. Just enjoy learning, like enjoy the process. And I think that's how, for me anyway, if I'm getting too analytical, I suck. Like I just need to play. And if I'm having fun and just like trusting my instinct, I'm usually pretty good.
Nice. No, that's very good. I'm just trying to think. What else do people commonly ask you about pickleball?
I think a hot topic at the moment is, where the pro game is going, like what validates it. I certainly think the line calls are an issue currently. I think there's certainly some repeat offenders that need to be put on blast. And I'm certainly not one to shy away from doing that, because there's kind of like one thing that I don't have tolerance for, and that's cheating. You can be an ass, you can be nice, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. But you do not get to alter the outcome of the game and somehow think that you are more important. And that when I watch that, I'll usually give like one or two where it's like, all right, maybe you missed it. And if it's egregious enough and I watch it numerous times, then I'll never speak to you again. You're done. So I think that for the sport to be validated and for that kind of animosity to not exist, we're at some point going to have to figure out how we have a camera system that's accurate, that takes the calls out of the players' hands entirely. I empathize with the refs because it's hard to see a pickleball land. If it's a small margin and they're watching the kitchen line, they're not going to see it. It's too hard. So that's the first thing that I would like to see. And then, yeah, just kind of when is this going to have the same push from a viewership standpoint that's had recreationally? And I'm still not sold that that's going to happen, but I certainly hope it does.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect, man. I love it. Thanks for sharing your info. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Alpha Pickleball Podcast with Tats. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, rate, and connect with us on social media. Stay alpha on the pickleball court. Until our next session.